Hello there and welcome to Eye on the Money, the television show that gives you insights into how to improve your financial well-being as well as make your money work for you. I'm Ingrid Nantege. Now, building wealth is a topic that can spark debates, promote quirky get-rich-quick schemes, or even drive people to pursue transactions that they might otherwise never have considered. But while the basic steps to building wealth are simple to understand, they are much more difficult to follow. Today on the show, joining me to help us understand the concept of wealth generation and how you can accumulate wealth is financial literacy advocate and entrepreneurship consultant Sheila Mboga. Sheila, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here.
Brilliant. I'm so excited to have you to talk about wealth and accumulating wealth because I don't know a single person who doesn't want to be wealthy. Now, just to get into the conversation of the day, this concept of wealth, I mean, people talk about, people talk about, I want to be wealthy. You know, once in a while, you'll hear people talk about, I want to be rich. What's the difference? I mean, this concept of wealth, help us demystify it. What's the difference between being wealthy? What's the difference between being rich? If at all there's a difference even.
Thank you very much for the great question. Wealth is the ability to live on your own terms and have financial freedom. Now, when it comes to the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich, simply put, is having lots of money or earning higher income, but you do not have financial freedom. On the other hand, being wealthy means you have attained financial freedom and you have time to do the things that you love. You can wake up and say, I'm not working today, and still your lifestyle will remain the same. But when it comes to being rich, you have to constantly furnish your lifestyle by either working, taking a debt, or just selling something. So being rich, you have lots of money, but being wealthy, you have financial freedom and time.
And Sheila, I feel like you've really done a brilliant job in explaining that for us, because with your definition of what wealth is, then I feel like a lot of the people out there who we usually encounter that we think are wealthy are actually rich, because if actually being wealthy is being able to live on your own terms, sustain whatever lifestyle you want, then a lot of people really fall in the rich category as opposed to wealth. However, just to dwell on what you've said, being rich vis-a-vis being wealthy, and also because it has to get you to a point where you live on your own terms and really you're just comfortable in whatever you're doing. Being wealthy, is it something that can really happen overnight? Is it something that you can really put a timeline onto? And what sort of practices or habits that someone have to have in place to get them on that path of living a life of complete satisfaction and just living on their own terms, really?
Absolutely. Building wealth is a crock pot and not a microwave. So it takes time. It takes time to build wealth, and it takes discipline and consistency in practicing certain money habits. For example, if someone won a jackpot of 5 million, we cannot say they are wealthy, but we can say they are rich because they have a lot of money at that time. But after some time, you might find they, within a short period of time, if they do not adhere to the money principles, they go back to being broke. So building wealth takes time, and it's not an overnight thing. That's just something we need to get in mind. And there are some habits that you need to put in place for you to actually be wealthy. Number one is you need to have the right wealth mindset. At Financial Wellness Center, we always encourage our clients and everyone out here that wealth is a mindset before the assets. So if you do have a wrong mindset towards money, no matter how much money you're given, it will leave you. Because money actually is an energy. before it's actually a tangible material to touch on. So you have to work on your mindset first. And then the second thing, you need to plan and set your goals. Many people plan, but they don't set goals. So they end up doing things, but they don't, a goal must have a timeline. We talk about SMART goals. You must have a timeline. Now, when you plan, once you achieve that goal, it moves you to the next one. Then the next thing you need to have is a budget and ensure you are debt-free. The journey to building wealth is easy when you have a budget, because a budget is a roadmap to your financial journey. It guides you. Just like the way we have Google Map to guide you when you're going somewhere, a budget guides you on your financial journey. Then you need to try as much as possible, be debt-free or pay your debt on time, and then have an emergency fund as much as possible. Now, an emergency fund is a fund that can cater for your expenses for at least 3 to 6 months. And then the final thing or practice you need to put in place is at least save 10 to 15% of your income consistently. Some people will save today, then the next time they save is 6 months later, which is not good. You need to consistently save at least 10 to 15%. One way to be consistent with saving is automating your savings. And then after you save, because saving is a means to an end, we don't stop there. You now invest as soon as possible and as much as possible. Why do I say as soon as possible? Some people say, I will save when I reach 30, or I will save when I reach 40. They're saying life starts at 40, but you need to start saving and investing as soon as possible and as much as you can. Now, there is no specific figure of investing, but I always say ensure at least 30% of whatever you are earning is channeled into investing.
Now,
that way you are able to be on a journey on building wealth.
No, please carry on.
As I was saying, once you are able to save and invest as much as you can, we can say that you are now in a journey of building your wealth. Yes.
So Sheila, from what you've said, it's obviously very important, even as you get onto this journey of attaining wealth, or should I say accumulating wealth, the fundamentals of good money management obviously have to be in place. And you've even brought to the fore the fact that, to achieve this, you have to make sure that the bare minimum is in place, which could be having the right wealth mindset, making sure you're debt-free. But to someone out there, this may sound a bit crazy they'll say, how can I be debt-free? I'm barely managing with my money. So my question then is, for someone to attain wealth, what sort of relationship are we talking about that they should have with money? Does it call for stinginess? Does it call for just suffering and saying, you know what, in my early years, let me suffer, let me put that emergency fund in place, let me have a budget, let me put my savings, let me not enjoy, so that maybe later on at 60 years old, I'm very wealthy and I just have all this money to enjoy. So again, what sort of relationship are we talking about, and do you really, really have to take drastic measures that almost deprive yourself of things now, but looking forward into the future for better things?
You need, growing wealth is being frugal and living within your means. That is the key to growing wealth. Now, there's a difference between frugality and stinginess. Now, when an individual is stingy, he or she has the money, but doesn't want to spend on himself or others due to fear that the money will run out. Such a person will say that one is stingy. But a frugal person is someone who has taken the time to understand how money works and is careful on how you handle money. So frugality is more of, I am well equipped, I understand money, and I know that money is a tool that can help me or hurt me. So once I have the idea that money is a tool, it can help or hurt me, I'm gonna be careful around it. I'll not be stingy, but I will do things within my means. I'm not pressuring myself. I'm not depriving myself. I am being satisfied with what I'm doing, but I am understanding how it works. Yes.
So Sheila, now I really want us to discuss something that often we'll hear various perceptions on, and that's employment versus entrepreneurship. Depending on who you're talking to, you'll hear people say, oh, I don't encourage employment. You can never really get rich when it comes to employment because you're making money for another person. And then there are other people who will tell you, like, if you're not built for entrepreneurship, it's really a very lonely journey. It takes so much out of you. So still on that conversation of creating wealth, what would you say is, should I say, simpler or is a more sure path to attaining wealth? Is it, that job that guarantees you a constant income stream, or is it your business that you're going to pour everything into to make sure it works for you? So employment versus entrepreneurship, who has a better chance of, fully getting onto that path of attaining wealth?
Actually, both of them have a chance to attain wealth, because if you remember, I said becoming wealthy is more of attaining financial freedom and time. And this is dependent on you adhering to money principles. So, for example, if you are employed and you focus on creating passive income through various investment tools, within a short time, you have a continuous flow of income from employment and you're channeling it to investment. So at some point, this investment is going to give you return on investment, and you'll be able to you are building wealth actually, as well as the person who is an entrepreneur. He or she, you could be an entrepreneur, but you may never get wealthy. Trust me. There are people who are entrepreneurs and they will work all their life. They don't have financial freedom and they don't have time. So building wealth is more of me making money work for me. And making money work for you does not depend on whether you are employed or not, or you are an entrepreneur.
Thank you so much for that feedback,
It's
Sheila. I believe
how are you investing this money so that it can.
Sorry, I seem to have cut you off there. I apologize. I don't know if you have everything else.
Yeah, it's okay.
So I'm sorry about that. Sheila, I'm going to take a very quick break at this point, but we'll be right back to talk a lot more about attaining wealth. And remember, if you're watching from home, you can also be a part of this conversation by sending your feedback to our social media handles at Metropol TV KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Eye on the Money, and today on the show we're discussing how to generate wealth, and with me on the show is none other than Sheila Mboga, financial literacy advocate and entrepreneurship consultant. Now, Sheila, before we took a break, you are really trying to explain to us the whole concept of wealth generation, what practices someone should put in place to make sure they're on the right path to attaining wealth, as well as between owning a business and, just being an employee, who stands a better chance at attaining wealth. Now, staying on the course of entrepreneurship, Sheila, my question is, for someone who has gone into business or who has set up a business, and obviously the end goal of this business is to help them attain wealth. They're just not trying to be rich. They're not just trying to, obviously it's to address a need, but they're also trying to make money at the end of the day and be wealthy. What does the thought process around that look like? Like, do you go into the business already knowing, setting up the business with the plan to make you wealthy? Or is it something you pick up along the way with, the way your product is being welcomed, scalability? I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you very much. When it comes to business, it depends on the performance and growth of the business. So when you get into business or when you start a business, how this business is performing and how it's growing can tell if you will be able to attain or generate wealth from it. Remember, when it comes to a business perspective, all wealth comes from adding value. So the question you need to ask yourself, does your business add value? And this value, you can, a business can generate wealth in two ways. Number one is through income. So there's a point where your business is able to break even and give you more income that is more than, it has sustained itself and you still have disposable income. So at such a point, you're going to use this income to invest and gain financial freedom to have time to do other things. Then another aspect is the value of the business. You can sell your business just the same way you can sell your house, the same way you can sell land. So the value of the business makes it to be an asset. So is your business valuable to be an asset? If not, then you need to keep on working towards it until it becomes so valuable to be considered an asset, so that you can say that this business is able to lead me into my wealthy place. So yeah.
And Sheila, still, when it comes to doing business, we see a lot of people when they set up businesses, they have money and then there's a business, maybe there's a gap in a certain area, or, someone has gone into a certain business and is thriving, so they feel like they can also make money in that area. So basically, what I'm trying to say is not everyone who goes into a business that they're good at or something that they're passionate about. Someone could have some loose money that they want to invest somewhere, there's an opportunity, and they do that. So when it comes to attaining wealth, how important is skill set and expertise, if at all?
Thank you very much for that question. Skill set is very important because, the higher your skills are, the higher the chances of you earning more money. Remember, initially I said money is a tool or a vehicle that helps you attain financial freedom and time, alongside financial education. So if your skills are high, for example, as a business person, you are able to develop a niche, you are able to serve your customers right, and then you are able to increase your revenue, which you can now use to generate wealth. Then in terms of an employee, the higher your skill set is, the higher the chances of your promotion, the higher the chances of you earning more in terms of either a job offer or offering your skills. Then you end up having more money at your disposal that you can invest to make it grow and become wealthy. Mm-hmm. So skill set is very, very important in building wealth.
And Sheila, building wealth is one thing and keeping wealth is another thing. And that's something that this pandemic has shown us. We saw big companies that have existed for so many years. With 1 year of crazy things happening, they let go of almost all their staff. They're struggling to keep their doors open. So yeah, generating wealth is one thing, but keeping that wealth is a whole other thing. We've seen family businesses that have existed over, time spans of, with one wrong move like this go under. So when it comes to attaining wealth, what would be your advice?
Thank you very much for that great question, Ingrid. As you said, attaining wealth is one thing and keeping it is another thing. I came up with some 5 or 4 tips that can help. The first one is diversify your finances in all areas of your life. Now, don't just focus on one thing. Diversify as much as possible. In finance, we always say diversification is the only free lunch. It's the only one that can help you in case the stock market is going down, real estate could be going up. So if you've invested in real estate and stock market, you'll not feel the pain or the losses. Then the second thing you need to do is always consider investing in new opportunities to make money work for you instead of working for money. In as much as the pandemic has come to us, there are opportunities that came up that were not there 2 years ago. Now, as a smart person, you need to consider such kind of opportunities and at least invest in them. Don't remain outdated just because you've been investing in a certain thing for 20 years. You need to also be open-minded and look for new opportunities that you can take advantage of at that time. And then the next thing is live on your income, not on the liquidation of your assets. Now, we've seen with this pandemic, there was this distress selling that was like rampant. Everyone was selling their assets to live on that. But if you are able to have an income without liquidating your assets, then you are able to keep your wealth. Remember, staying wealthy is more of keeping and growing, not just keeping and eating. It's growing it. So live within your income and ensure that you are not liquidating your assets unless you are at the end point, and have a strategy on how you can bounce back, and then take advantage of compound interest as much as possible. Compound interest is the next wonder or money wonder in the world. So as much as you can, you take advantages of where compound interest is applicable. And lastly, build on relationships. We cannot avoid our human capital. Remember, any opportunity that comes to you, it came through a person. So if you want to really stay wealthy, then you need to build on your relationship. I will wind up saying, if you work with 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th one. Meaning, if you build yourself around a good relationship, they'll be able to let you know there's an opportunity here, or I did this and it did not work for me. So be careful when you're going on that road. As well as the better relationships you have, the more opportunities you have. Your network is your network. Thank you.
Sheila, I literally have nothing useful to add on to those amazing nuggets, except thank you very much for making the time to come and talk to us about how to generate wealth. I'm so sure our audience back there at home that was thinking about being rich is now a little more ambitious, and they're thinking about how to just make their money work for them and make them more wealthy as opposed to being rich. Thank you very much, Sheila. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had today on Eye on the Money. Thank you very much for being such an amazing sport and watching. Remember, you can be a part of the conversation by sending your feedback to our social media handles at Metropol TV KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Enjoy the rest of our programming.